I have a question, Stuart. I've waited a long time to ask you this question, years, in fact. Before I met you, I was a student of Swami Seshananda, who was a direct disciple of Sharada Devi. And he gave me a whole lot of mantras that come up frequently in our classes. And I wondered how best to work with that.
Well, as long as you do them internally, quietly to yourself, there's no problem.
Oh, okay.
I mean, look, this gets down to a very basic thing. I talk about it. I am not in competition with any other teacher on the planet Earth. You could do other work. You can use mantras along with the double breathing exercise if they help you to open. I don't suggest that you just sit there and do mantras, for
Right.
the 45 minutes of the class. But
Yeah.
along with it, a little mantra, it can help you. So use it. I mean,
Okay.
I think if you'll pardon my English, it's pure bullshit when people say you can't do this and you can't do that. It's not this or it's this and. So you can practice any kind of spiritual work that really gets you to open, but make sure it's like I wrote in this thing I just put on my website, about Kundalini, first time
Yeah.
I ever heard the word Kundalini. And it's true, it's not what it's called. Does it work? People often confuse themselves doing things that don't work because other people tell them they do work. You've got to find for yourself what really works, what really helps you to get to God. And then it doesn't matter what the hell it's called,
Okay.
it works. So I wouldn't again, I'll say it again. You can do martial arts, you can be a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, it doesn't matter. Because this meditation will take you right back to your roots.
Yeah.
It'll take you right back to everything you as a human being have to work out in your karma. It's always problematic because people think I can't do this or that, and that's just nonsense.
Yeah.
You get big enough to do this and that and that and that.
Mhm.
How can I go to your meditation class? I got work, I got this, I got that. It's just that you're not big enough to do it yet, to include all of these things. When you get big enough inside, you can include so many different areas of creative work within yourself. And nothing conflicts with anything else. But I've heard this so much. I got this, I got that, my grandkids, my kids, my this, all right, it means you're not ready to do, because if you were really ready, you would be big enough to do what I teach and your kids and grandkids and this and that and the other and the other and the other. You would have this enormous chakra system inside yourself that was really hungry to grow spiritually, and that includes all elements of life. It's not limited to just what I do. I'm not going to tell you just do what I do and do nothing else. I mean, that would be a disservice to you and to me. You know, I don't
Yeah.
want people in my life like that. I want people that are big enough to be able to truly work out their karma, go to the gas station, fill up their tanks, you know, and work out their karma,
Yeah.
because as you grow in this meditation, you will attract more and more kinds of situations.
Mhm.
And nothing conflicts. It only conflicts if in your head you make it conflict. Get big enough to nurture your children and your grandchildren. Where are you going to get the energy to do it? You got to sit and do some kind of inner work to really build a system that can do what I'm talking about. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what works. I know what works for me. It's like I said in that thing I put on my website.
Yeah.
What's the difference? What it's called? It works.
Yeah.
No,
It sure does.
Chris, you don't have to talk, Chris. Okay, just stay quiet. And it works. And that's the single most important thing. Does it work? If it doesn't work, don't do it. Find something else that does work. As I say, I'm not in competition, and I don't get upset if people tell me they found. Go do it, grow, get to God, have a spiritual life. If what I do doesn't work for you, with all gratitude, I hope you find something that does. So I wouldn't worry about using the little mantra that you learned a million years ago to help you grow in this work. It's not going to interfere. Does anyone else have a question? And just to finish all that, it's really anti your own growth to substitute. I mean, I've had students that play musical gurus. They go to 2 or 3 different gurus and they trade us off. I got so tired of it. I finally said, it's enough. If you can't do what they teach and what I teach, and then don't do what I teach, because I don't want to get an email from you I'm going to stop coming and the and I hear all this nonsense, and I just take their name off my list, and I'm not interested in having people that play teachers off each other. It's just stupid. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Hi, Stuart. I have a question.
Yes, Leisha.
When we fall in love with another human being, and you have spoken about this before, but I'd just like to hear more about how that love that's so directed towards another human being, how to channel that love and keep connected to God.
Well, look, that person was put into your life for a reason, to teach you to open your heart, to teach you to have patience, to teach you how to be non-judgmental, to teach you unconditionally how to love another human being. And that is an important step in learning how to get to God. We have to learn how to get our hearts open. Falling in love with somebody teaches us how to do that. We also, look, I had a situation like that yesterday where somebody was in love and big conflict, and the person they're in love with doesn't want them to do this meditation. He thinks it's crazy, and it gets back to the same thing I'm talking about. You need to make sure that the person you fall in love with unconditionally supports your life. They love you unconditionally, and that you don't fall into a whole, insane web of what they demand from you and how you're supposed to live. I mean, you have grown to this point in your life, doing whatever you're doing in your life. People, if they fall in love with you, they have to accept that. And they have to love you unconditionally. And it's vice versa. You have to love them unconditionally. Otherwise, down the road, it gets very complicated. And it gets very conflicted with people judging each other and unhappy with each other because they're doing things that you don't approve of. If I had to approve of all the things that everyone in my life does, I would go crazy. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to love unconditionally. And I think when you fall, That famous philosopher, Chris Rock, you know that famous philosopher, comedian. Well, he said something I repeat all the time, and it's one. He said, when you first meet somebody, you don't meet them, you meet their agent. You find out who you're with 2 years later, and this is true. I mean, I don't remember one other joke that guy ever told, but when he told me that, I just sat up in my chair and say it is so true. You meet people, the love, the this, the that, and 2 years later, you find out who you're with. So don't judge anybody. Stay open and understand that when you have somebody in your life like that, they are there to teach you how to get to God. How? By learning how to be non-judgmental, by learning how to love them unconditionally. And if it doesn't work out, you will learn this. And this will be an important step in your spiritual growth. Even if the person is no longer in your life 3 years later, you will have learned this. And this is a major step in learning how to live without judgment, unconditionally, to truly love somebody and accept them as they are, not as you want them to be. Because nobody will ever fit into the way we want them to be. And we live in God's world, and there's so much nonsense that goes on in this world, But we can't spend all our time judging it. We have to spend our time learning how to grow and use whatever we're presented with in life as a reason to grow and not as a reason to defeat ourselves. To be grateful that you have somebody in your life like that. I mean it. I'm grateful. Help me get your heart really open. Be grateful that there's somebody in your life. At the same time, don't be naive. Grow because of who they are and understand when you fall in love with somebody, you get the whole package. The good, the bad, the indifferent, the this, what you like, what you don't, it all comes. And what it comes for is to teach you how to grow inside yourself. It's a messenger of God to teach you how to build a system inside that is strong enough to have a spiritual life. I hope that's clear because this is something that happens to just about every person. And as I said, I sat and listened to that yesterday, and it was, but I've heard it, hundreds of times from people. This whole thing about somebody falls in love with somebody, and if they would have met that person 5 years ago, they wouldn't have looked twice at them. But because of this meditation and their spiritual practice, they have grown to where there's light coming out of them, there's joy coming out of them. Their hearts are open. There's something that's beautiful about them. People fall in love with them. And then they discover that they're doing meditation, and oh my God, it's crazy. Why should you do that? It's insane. This happens all the time. But they don't realize that the reason they actually fell in love with the person is the person sitting for a number of years. They became beautiful. They learned how to get open inside, and they became beautiful. I hope it's clear to all of you because it's very important to have relationships, to fall in love, to, children, parent, the whole thing is very important. But it's important because it's an incredibly fast way to grow. It's an incredibly fast way to learn all the things I've just been talking about. Because if you don't learn them, that other person will be very difficult, unless they happen to know how to love unconditionally. And there are very few people in the world that know how to do that. So you have to love them unconditionally, and nobody wants lectures and the right way to live. Who says that my way is the right way to live? For me, it works. It doesn't work for it. If it worked for everybody, there would be more than, I don't know, 18 people sitting here. There'd be 18,000 people here, and I would be probably the first one to run if it worked for everybody. Does anyone else have a question? Is that clear? I hope it's clear.
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question? And it's not only falling in love, it's the job you get, the work you do, the business you get involved with. It's your parents, it's your children, it's your friends. Nobody is a complete package. Nothing is, God is perfect. Everything else in the universe thrives on imperfection. And our job is to get closer to enlightenment by learning how to not sit around and judge a world that's imperfect. And it doesn't make us any better, it makes us worse to sit there and be in judgment of life. It's not hard to do. There's so much wrong. And what is really wonderful about life is often hidden beneath all of that imperfection. And our job is to get strong enough to find what is hidden beneath the imperfection and truly learn how to unconditionally love that. Does anyone else have a question? I just have one announcement. Next weekend, I'm having a retreat here on the 17th, 18th, and 19th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So there'll be no class next Sunday. There will be 3 classes here the whole weekend. It's going to be a pretty intense weekend. But there'll be no class on Zoom. But there will be a class, the week following. And then there'll be another retreat. I know a lot of you live in Europe, you live in the Middle East, you live, but there will be another retreat in April, 3rd weekend in April. And if you're interested in coming, get in touch with Jennifer. She'll give you all the particulars. It's the same thing. I'm going to be doing these, more than I've done them in a long time. Does anyone else have a question I would like to ask? Okay, well, thank you. God bless you all for being in my life. And as I say all the time, you all are my teacher. You make me work very hard on myself, and I need that in my life. So bless you all. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on Tuesday.
Bless you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.